Hello, my name is Eugenia Kennedy Smith, and this is my presentation. The research question for this presentation is racism in America. Has it changed, and why does it persist? Technological advances have led to vast amounts of data that have been collected, compiled, and archived that is now easily accessible for research. Certain research methods are more feasible than others. My research on racism is just one of the many possible topics in which secondary data analysis can be utilized. In order to begin this research, I first began to define the words prejudice and racism. As you can see, prejudice begins and leads to racism. The two terms are defined here. A person can be prejudiced about anything. It can be a positive attribute, but most often it's used in a negative context. Racism is a little more specific than that of prejudice. It also goes deeper in its effects. A person can be prejudiced, but racism affects people, institution, and as seen lately, politics. Racism began with slavery. White settlers thought of a novel solution to their problem of indentured servants. They decided to kidnap or buy black captives in Africa to work the new colonies. The difference in skin color would be a dead giveaway that they weren't free. There have been many who, in the last decade or so, have been more vocal about their beliefs on racial issues, perhaps due in part to the current political administration, that this very ugly sentiment even occurred. The old form of racism is founded on beliefs that blacks and other minorities are inferior based on phenotype alone. Before, in the past, people felt that blacks should not take part in desegregation based on their skin color. Now it's based on characteristics, and these characteristics are then used to deny and to discriminate against blacks and others. Here is an excellent example of how this new form of racist behavior operates. Since minorities have a lesser aptitude for learning and education in general, they should be passed over in order to give more deserving white students a chance to attend school. Yes, she said it. Sarah Palin is at least honest about where she stands on this issue. These are the sentiments of many, unfortunately. My research began with JSTOR and Pew Research Institute for various polls. For there to be so much denial of racism in America, there sure seems to be a lot of documentation of its existence. The literature review gave much despairing news on racism. It truly seems as if it's gaining strength in the new form. It seems as if people are more comfortable relating to racism as in regards to government policies such as Medicaid, equal housing, education, and welfare than on skin color. Many white Americans feel as if blacks and other minorities are draining the system. However, according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, which administers the program, 40.2% of recipients are white, while 25.7% are black, 10.3% are Hispanic, 2.1% are Asian, and 1.2% are Native American. As one can see, whites make up the vast majority of the U.S. population, nearly 3/4% of the population, while blacks make up 13.3%, while Hispanics make up 17.6% of the population. Blacks who assimilate have a better chance of advancing in society, but many are too culturally different to actually succeed. Phenotypical assimilation is, in fact, not assimilation. In his studies, Becker's polls show how many in this nation feel about various groups. Apparently, being prejudiced isn't necessarily a bad thing. Yet more whites feel that there is tension between the races. Blacks are not that far behind. Is there really any hope for this nation? Apparently, racism has fringe benefits for some. The white majority benefit from it. If blacks or Latinos are more on an equal footing, then whites could lose ground. Perhaps that's why immigration is such a hot topic today. Latinos are the fastest growing segment in the U.S. population. Although they lack political and financial power, their sheer numbers can greatly upset the future of this country, and something must be done now to prevent that from happening in the future. It's incredible to me that the average black family earns less today than a white family in the 1960s. But keeping one's income low limits his or her potential in so many ways. It is the same with those with bachelor degrees. The wage discrepancy has to be about race. All things being equal, if income is limited, everything else will be also. This is part of the great plan of symbolic racism, keeping the outgroup out. It is my opinion that this type of racism will be with us for a long time. Yes, since the civil rights movement, things have changed, but it's my opinion that these changes will shift in a more negative direction. If one group of people are at risk, then everyone is at risk. Immigrants, women, the elderly, racial minorities, and those fighting for gay rights. We all have something to lose if this continues as it has been. And this is only just the beginning. We must stop people from adopting this attitude. If we see or hear something that can be seen as racist, we must act on it to end it. People should be seen in a colorblind sense, but not colorblind to the fact that racism exists. These are just a few images I wish to incorporate for emphasis. I personally don't believe this ugly specter will ever die anytime soon. As long as the financial benefit of some to keep others down is the target. The literature abounds with examples of this newfound racism. I am certain that many dissertations will be written over the next few years on this topic and in light of the incoming administration's policies. Mine will be one of them. Thank you for taking the time to view this presentation. I appreciate your attention to this national matter. Thank you.